I remember the day I found out like it was burned into my skull. We'd been planning our wedding for months, me, dreaming up the perfect day, and him acting like everything was fine. The house was immaculate, everything in its place, every detail checked off the list. I was excited, nervous, maybe even a little proud of how everything was coming together. It was supposed to be the happiest time of my life. Then came the day I saw something that shattered that illusion. I was rummaging through his desk, nothing unusual, just looking for some misplaced papers when I found the envelope. It was tucked behind a stack of receipts. No name on it, but I knew it was for him. I could feel my stomach tighten, that instinct that told me something was wrong. I hesitated, then pulled it out. After a quick glance, my heart stopped. Inside was a collection of messages, texts, really, full of intimate whispers and inside jokes. The kind of stuff that's meant to stay secret. As I read, my hands trembled. They weren't just flirtatious lines, they were downright suggestive. The kind that makes your skin crawl with the realization that the person you trust most is sharing all this with someone else. And right there at the bottom of the pile, I found a photo. My blood ran cold. It was him, shirtless, sweaty, smiling, standing close to my best man. They looked like they were caught in a private moment, just the two of them, sharing something I was never meant to see. I felt my knees weaken, and for a second I thought I might throw up. My mind raced. How long had this been going on? How blind had I been? I could feel the raw sting of betrayal like a hot blade twisting inside my chest. I couldn't breathe properly, my palms went clammy, and I had to grip the edge of the desk to steady myself. That's when I knew I had to confront him. I had to see if I was imagining it or if this was real. I called him that night, voice trembling more than I wanted it to. "Where are you right now?" I asked, my voice tight. "Home. Why?" "I need you to come over, now." When he arrived, I didn't waste any time. I showed him the envelope, the messages, the photo. His face went pale, but he tried to brush it off. "It's not what it looks like," he said, but his voice cracked. I could see his eyes darting, trying to find an escape route. "Really? Because it looks pretty damn clear to me," I shot back. "How long has this been going on? How many times did you lie right to my face?" He stammered, then finally confessed it had been going on for months, that he'd met her at some work event and it just spiraled from there. I felt my stomach turn again, but this time with pure rage. Nothing had prepared me for this kind of betrayal. That night I stayed up, staring at the ceiling, trying to process everything. I thought about our future, the vows we made, the trust I'd put in him. And I wondered, how could he do this? How could he risk everything we planned for something so reckless, so stupid? I told myself I'd be better off without him. I knew I couldn't stay and pretend everything was okay. I was furious, hurt, and filled with a deep, burning need for revenge. But I wasn't just going to walk away. No, I wanted him to feel every ounce of pain he'd caused me in a way that mattered. I started plotting. First, I needed to gather more proof, something undeniable, something that would leave no room for denial. I wanted him to see I was serious. The next few days, I watched him, looked for patterns, anything I could use. I knew I'd have my moment, and I knew I'd make him regret ever crossing that line. And here's the kicker. Even in my anger, I wondered if I'd go through with it. Because revenge isn't just about getting even. It's about reclaiming your power, showing them they can't get away with it. I was determined to do that. But I also knew this was just the beginning. The real game was about to start, and I'd make sure he paid every price for the betrayal he thought he could hide. Do you want me to go on? Over the next few days, I became almost obsessive. Every detail about him, every little move, every word he said, became fuel for my plan. I knew I needed irrefutable proof, something that would leave no doubt. I started with his phone, going through messages again, but I knew that wouldn't be enough. I needed physical evidence, something that be dismissed as a misunderstanding or an accident. One afternoon, I waited until he left for work. I slipped into his closet and looked behind the boxes, inside drawers, anywhere he might hide something. My heart pounded like a drum, each step echoing in my ears. Then I saw it. A small, leather-bound box shoved way in the back, almost out of sight. I opened it cautiously. Inside were more photos, screenshots of their conversation, some of which were even more explicit. My stomach twisted as I looked at them, feeling the heat rise to my face. I saw enough to confirm that this wasn't some innocent flirtation. I'd caught him red-handed and I had the proof to back it up. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. My hands trembled as I snapped photos of the contents. When I finally left the house, I felt a strange mix of relief and fury. I had what I needed. Now I just had to decide when and how to confront him again, this time with the full weight of the evidence. That night, I sat in my room, staring at the photos on my phone. I knew what I had to do next. I wasn't going to give him a choice anymore. I was going to tell him I knew everything, lay everything out in the open. And I was going to make sure he understood that there was no way out this time. I didn't want tears, pleas, or excuses. I wanted him to feel the cold, hard truth that I was not going to be the fool who got played. The timing was perfect. The moment he came home, I was ready. I called him into the living room, my voice steady but icy. "We need to talk," I said, sliding my phone across the table. "I know everything." He froze, eyes flickering with guilt and panic. "What are you talking about?" I tapped the screen, showing him the photos, proof that he'd been lying, cheating, sneaking around. "I saw the messages, the photos, all of it. How many times, huh? How long has this been going on?" He looked like he'd been punched in the stomach. I didn't mean for it to go this far," he stammered. "It was a mistake, just one time, just one time." I cut him off, voice rising. "Do you think I'm stupid? I've got your entire secret right here and I'm done pretending I didn't see." He looked like he wanted to run. "Please, I'll fix this. I swear I'll do whatever it takes." "No," I said coldly. "You don't get to fix this, not anymore." I felt a bitter taste in my mouth. The betrayal ran too deep. That's when I knew I had to act. This wasn't about just ending it. It was about making sure he understood the pain he caused. I told him I'd be leaving, that I needed space to think. I grabbed my purse, my heart pounding like a war drum. As I turned to walk out, I looked him straight in the eyes and said, "You'll regret this every single day." I left that night knowing I'd crossed a line. I had the evidence, the emotional leverage, and the resolve. The wheels were in motion now. He thought he could save himself with empty apologies, but I had other plans. Plans that would show him exactly how much he'd lost. But even as I plotted, a small voice inside warned me. Revenge isn't always the answer, but I wasn't about to let him walk away without feeling the full weight of what he'd done. No more hiding, no more pretending. He'd pay for this one way or another. "Do you want me to continue?" With the evidence in hand and my mind set on what had to be done, I spent that night plotting. I knew I wasn't just going to confront him and then walk away. That would be too easy and far too kind. No, I wanted him to feel the full sting of betrayal, to understand exactly what he'd thrown away. The plan started forming like a cold, sharp blade in my mind. First, I'd give him a taste of the truth, make him realize I wasn't bluffing. Then I'd take full control of the situation, ensuring he'd never forget the moment I delivered justice. I wasn't about to let him walk away unscathed, not without a reminder that you can't cheat on someone forever and expect to get away with it. In the days that followed, I began setting things in motion. I wanted to make it clear I knew everything without giving him the chance to deny or hide anything. I started by calling some of the people close to him, mutual friends, work colleagues. I mentioned I had uncovered something, but I kept things vague. I wanted him to start feeling the pressure, the suspicion creeping into his daily life. I didn't want an outright confrontation yet. I wanted him to squirm, to realize the walls were closing in. Meanwhile, I also secretly hired a private investigator. I told myself it was for peace of mind, but really I wanted to gather as much proof as possible, more than just the photos I already had. I needed something concrete, an undeniable record of every secret they shared. I watched him go about his days, seeing how he changed, how he fidgeted when he was nervous, how he started avoiding certain places or people. One afternoon, I got my chance. I found out he'd be at a business dinner with his best man, the very same guy he'd been cheating with. I knew the place. They'd be drinking, talking, maybe even sharing moments that I wanted to see for myself. I decided to show up uninvited and observe. I positioned myself at the bar, just close enough to hear snippets of their conversation. What I heard was disgusting. They weren't just flirting, they were planning what to do next. His best man, that slimy bastard, was telling him about their future, about how they'd keep it a secret, about the lies they'd tell me. I could feel my stomach churn. My fists clenched. I had all the proof I needed now, right there in their own words. When they left for a break, I slipped into their table, grabbed a glass of water, and waited. As they returned, I turned to face him, my voice trembling with barely contained fury. "So this is how you wanted to end things." He froze, eyes wide with shock, and the room went silent around us. I pulled out my phone and clicked the record button. "You didn't think I'd find out, huh? That I'd never know what you're really up to?" The look on his face was priceless. Defeat, guilt, and a dash of panic. His best man looked like he'd rather crawl under the table. I kept recording, watching him try to scramble for words, but I didn't need anything else. I had him exactly where I wanted. That night I sat down and composed a message to him, calm, cold, precise. I told him I'd seen everything, heard everything, and that he'd left me no choice but to take action. I explained I was done playing nice. I spelled out exactly what I planned to do next, exposing him, telling everyone what kind of man he'd become. I even included the recordings, the photos, everything I'd gathered. The message was simple. "You lost me the day you decided to betray me, but I'm not done yet. You'll regret this every moment. You should start preparing yourself." I hit send and then sat back, feeling the rush of adrenaline. The ball was rolling now and there was no turning back. I knew that once I made my move, there'd be no going back. He'd have his choice, fess up and face the consequences, or keep hiding and hope I'd eventually forget. But I wasn't interested in forgiving or forgetting. I was ready for the fallout, whatever it might bring. The question was, how much damage could I do? And would he finally realize he'd never get away with it? That's when I smiled, cold and sharp, because I was just getting started. "Do you want me to go on?" The next morning, I woke up with a strange mixture of anticipation and dread. I knew that by now, he'd be feeling the pressure, probably panicking, trying to figure out how I knew everything, what I'd do next. I didn't want to give him too much time to think. I wanted him to feel the immediate chaos I'd set in motion. I made sure to be outside his workplace just as he arrived, pretending I was going for a quick coffee run. When I saw him walk in, I kept my distance, but I watched from afar. His face was tight, eyes darting around as if he was looking for an escape route. I could see the sweat collecting on his forehead, the way he kept checking his phone, probably nervously awaiting some kind of blowback. He tried to act normal, but I didn't buy it. I had the recording saved on my phone, ready to drop at the right moment. I'd already sent the message that morning, letting him stew, waiting for him to realize he'd lost control. I watched him walk into his office and I smiled to myself. This was just the beginning. Around mid-morning, I got a text from an anonymous source, my own number, claiming they knew everything too. I played it cool, acting like I was surprised. The message said, "You'd better be ready. Your wife knows and she's not going to let this slide." It was perfect. It made him paranoid, made him think I'd already told someone else, or maybe I had someone on my side. That's when I decided it was time for the final move. I called him directly, voice cold and measured. "You're running out of time," I told him. "The truth is out there and I've made sure everyone will find out if you don't come clean." He begged, pleaded, promised to fix everything, but I kept my tone firm. "You had your chance to tell the truth," I said. "Now you'll have to face the consequences." I told him I was going to expose everything, our story, their secrets, all of it, and I made it clear I wasn't bluffing. That afternoon, I met with a lawyer I'd found. We drafted a plan to make everything public: social media, mutual friends, family. I wanted the full exposure, the kind that would ruin him if he tried to deny it. I handed her all the evidence I'd gathered, screenshots, recordings, the photos from his secret box, and she nodded, understanding the power of what I was about to do. Just before I left, I looked at him through the office window. He was sitting at his desk, staring at his phone like it was a ticking bomb. I could see the beads of sweat on his forehead, the way his hands trembled. That's when I knew I'd hit him where it hurt. When I finally walked out, I felt a strange sense of calm. I had everything I needed. The revenge was coming and it was going to be swift. I didn't want a drawn-out fight. I wanted him to feel the shock, the shame, the realization that he'd lost everything. And I was going to make sure he did. I took a deep breath and got in my car, already planning how I'd present the story. No more hiding. No more secrets. Just truth laid bare in him, standing there powerless. I thought about how I'd end this chapter of my life, and I smiled again. This was only the beginning of my justice. Do you want me to continue? That evening, I sat down at my laptop, heart pounding in a way I hadn't felt in years. I had everything lined up, screenshots, recordings, the photos, you name it. I knew exactly how and when I was going to drop the bomb. My plan was simple: go public, make sure everyone knew what kind of man he really was. I wanted him to feel the full weight of his betrayal, and I wanted it to happen fast. I drafted the post carefully. No emotional rambling, no poor me speeches. Just cold facts, dates, times, snippets of conversations, and my evidence. I knew the power was in the details. I wanted it to be undeniable. As I typed, I could feel the adrenaline surge, the satisfaction that this was finally over. This was my revenge, and I was going to make sure he paid for every lie, every secret, every stolen moment. Once I was satisfied with what I'd written, I scheduled the post on every platform I could think of: social media, local forums, even some private groups where his reputation mattered. I added a message that simply said, "This man is not who you think he is. Take care of your hearts." I clicked post, then leaned back, my stomach twisted in a mix of triumph and nausea. Within minutes, the fallout started. The messages flooded in, calls for him to explain, friends turning cold, colleagues distancing themselves. I could see his phone lighting up nonstop. He finally texted me, voice trembling over the line. "Please, we can fix this. Just delete the post. I'll do anything." But I didn't respond right away. I just listened to him beg, feeling the coldness take over. My throat tightened, but I kept my tone calm. "It's too late," I said. "You had your chance to be honest. Now everyone's going to see the truth." The next morning, I knew I'd broken him. His social media was flooded with shock and disgust. Mutual friends called me, some angry, some just stunned. I even got messages from relatives I hadn't spoken to in years, asking what was going on. It was exactly what I wanted, a complete exposure. I sat back, watching it all unfold. The pain in his voice, the desperation in his eyes when he called, trying to convince me to take it down. I felt a strange sense of relief, like I'd finally taken back control. It wasn't just revenge anymore, it was justice. I had made sure he knew that he couldn't cheat and lie his way out of it, but even as the chaos erupted, I realized something. This wasn't just about him. It was about reclaiming myself, about stopping the hurt from festering inside me any longer. I'd been broken, yes, but now I was rebuilding. Stronger, smarter, ready to move on. And I knew he'd never forget this lesson, no matter how much he tried to hide behind apologies or excuses. That night, I packed a bag, took my keys, and left the house. I didn't look back. I felt lighter, free of the weight of his betrayal. As I drove away, I thought about what I'd learned: that sometimes the only way to heal is to take back your power and remind someone they can't keep hurting you without consequences. I handed over the keys, officially ending the chapter. And with that, I understood one thing for sure: no one gets to betray me and walk away unscathed. Not anymore. That's the lesson I'll carry forward. Would you like me to finish with the final part? In the days that followed, everything changed. The house was silent, emptier somehow, like the walls echoed with the ghosts of what had been. I felt a strange mix of relief and exhaustion, like I'd been holding my breath for too long and finally let it out. I'd taken the power back, and in doing so, I'd carved out a bit of myself that I thought I'd lost. It was messy, it was raw, but it was real. I didn't hear from him anymore. No calls, no texts, no apologies, just the distant hum of his life unraveling without me. The social media posts stayed up, the damage irreversible. Every day I saw the fallout: mutual friends distancing themselves, work colleagues whispering behind backs, family members stunned by the truth. It was brutal, but it was necessary. I knew I had hit him where it hurt, and I felt a strange sense of satisfaction in knowing he'd never recover from it. I went to a lawyer, finalized the divorce papers, signed them, and handed over everything. That chapter was officially closed. Now I focus on rebuilding, on healing. I started therapy, went to places that made me feel alive again. Surrounded myself with people who genuinely cared. The pain of betrayal was deep, but I refused to let it define me. Instead, I took it as a lesson, one about boundaries, about respect, about what I deserved. Looking back, I realize how much that betrayal changed me. It taught me to trust my instincts more, to listen when something feels off, and to never let anyone diminish my worth. I'm not going to lie, there's still a sting, still a flicker of anger sometimes, but mostly there's strength. The kind of strength that comes from surviving, from reclaiming your life when everything's been stripped away. And I want anyone reading this to know, don't let betrayal break you. Use it to build a better version of yourself. Take back your power, no matter how messy or complicated it gets. Because in the end, the only person who can truly save you, who can make you whole again, is yourself. So here's my final word of advice. Trust your gut, hold tight to your boundaries, and never let someone's lies define your story. When it's time, walk away. Reclaim your life and never forget you are worth more than their secrets and lies. The best. Revenge is living well after all, and I plan to do exactly that.